Start streaming. Turn on the Marantz.
Mm.
Especially with all this bad weather, you never know. You saw there's a ton of power outages in Brooklyn.
Wow. You know, I've never had a power outage.
We've never had one
At my
either.
current apartment, I've never had a power outage. I think maybe once the UPS went click click, maybe, but like very many years ago. Even during the hurricane, the big one, I had power the whole time.
I threw my UPS away. I actually don't have any anymore.
I never actually even though I have shitty Spectrum, I don't even remember any long internet outages except for when like the shitty router they gave me busted.
Yep,
and they
every
replaced
internet
it.
outage we've ever had was the router failing and having to be replaced.
I wouldn't know if there was a telephone outage because I don't use the telephone. There have been water outages when they had to fix it in the street recently, like a month ago.
Yep, I haven't had that. We had that
But it
a
was
couple
only like
times
during the day.
We had a couple of those during the day, but that was 10 years ago.
They dug up the street recently. I never had the elevator goes out. That's what happens in my building.
All right. Think we're good to go. City. Oops. I don't want to play that audio. Okay. It's Wednesday, August 8th, 2018. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, City, the manga by Keiichi Arawi, the Nichijou guy.
Is it a guy?
Yeah.
Keiichi sounds like a guy's name.
Keiichi? That's a guy's name.
Arawi. I assume Arawi is
Yeah.
the surname. It's not. Wouldn't it be Arawi-san or something? If it's Japanese, you switch it. Right?
Yeah. Here, let's see what this page says about.
You wouldn't name your kid.
Was born and raised in Gunma. He grew up in some other place. He went to this high school.
Gunma. That's an initial D territory.
I know. I'll keep this up. All right. Oh, we already got a bunch of people watching the stream. All
Go
right.
away, people.
All right, sad Piro.
It's not sad.
You're so sad. Oh, nobody listened. No one consumed my art. It's
Piro
bad.
didn't say go away.
He also said no one consumed my art. It's bad. I'm bad. I'll burn my art books. No one can see them.
No, that's not what I want to do at all. That's completely different. I'm saying you shouldn't waste your time. I'm making this just because I want to make it.
Then why do we publish it? Why don't we just make it? Why don't we just sit here and not record anything and just do it?
Yeah, sure, that sounds okay.
All right. You said you have an opening bit, so go for it.
Okay. So, you go to buy some breakfast, right?
Like you do.
Sometimes you can get a whole, but, to save money, I want to get breakfast that I can have at home and just wake up and eat, not have to stop and get an expensive bacon, egg, and cheese every day, right?
Yeah, so as much as I would think that, as much as I like things like yogurt and stuff for breakfast, I pretty much want a hot breakfast, and I'm not going to make a hot breakfast at home.
No, so I got some pancake mix. I got sometimes I buy some English muffin.
Yeah, pancake mix, that's a weekend breakfast. That is not a Tuesday breakfast.
I can actually just make a few pancakes.
You're not going to do that before you go to work, unless you work from home.
I do it anyway. But sometimes even though, people our age don't do cereal, sometimes I'll go for some cereal.
So, where I work, we have like the cafeteria with snacks and stuff, but in the morning, there's a gigantic cereal bar with like 10 different cereals, and a lot of people eat cereal for breakfast with their milk.
All right. But anyway, so the cereal that I like is shredded wheat because it's nothing but wheat.
What are you, 90 years old? Shredded wheat is awful.
It's great. And then there's no bullshit.
Is it at least the frosted shredded wheat?
No, it's
Why
sugary
would you
poison.
eat shredded wheat?
It's delicious.
It tastes like nothing.
It tastes like wheat.
It tastes, nothing.
You don't like cream of wheat either. I think
No,
you just
cream
don't
of
like,
wheat. Cream of wheat.
I think you just don't like wheat.
Cream of wheat is disgusting.
I think Rim just doesn't like wheat.
Wheat is excellent if converted into something like bread.
It converted into a hard biscuit or into a watery mush.
Yeah, hard biscuit is fine. Hard shredded wheat, not fine.
That's a biscuit. Anyway.
That is not... There's a world where someone would call that a biscuit. That is not a biscuit. To me, a biscuit is
the point is, I don't like the shredded wheat. That's the big
butter.
It says
and fat.
first of all, it says biscuit on the box, right? Because there's two versions. There's the one.
I could take a poop in a box and write the word biscuit.
There's
on
the
it.
one with the big one and the one with a lot of little ones, right? The big one, it says right on the box, big biscuit. I don't like that one.
I was about to say, if you like that one, that's even worse.
You got to get the ones a lot of small ones, and the grocery store next to me doesn't have it. I got to go far away to get it, and I don't want to. So I look at all the cereals in the grocery store next to me to see which one doesn't have any fucking sugar in it, right? And
I mean, granted, like just for comparison, as a kid, the cereals I ate were the Nintendo officially branded cereal.
So just sugar in a bag.
I'd eat Lucky Charms, but I really only ate the marshmallows.
That's sugar in a box, okay.
And Frosted Flakes.
So actually, I found that the cereal with the most sugar per gram is Honey Nut Cheerios, which is one of the cereals that I would eat.
Yeah, there you go.
But
actually, I used to really like Sugar Crisp.
Yeah, I like
which was renamed what, Golden Crisp?
I don't know. I like Corn Pop was a sugar cereal I ate.
Oh yeah, I like those. Okay.
Most sugar cereals I would not eat. I usually ate
Cinnamon Toast Crunch was my jam in high school.
That's what I would eat if those were like it was like the only sugar.
Have we ever done a show on cereal?
Maybe, but whatever. The point is, so I went and I looked at all these healthy-looking cereals that looked healthy on the box.
That's our next Thursday show. We've never done a show on cereal.
From all these healthy-looking brands like Kashi and whatever the fuck, right? And all these cereals, you look at the box, they look super healthy. Like, hey, we are, tons of greens. And then you look at the fucking ingredients on the side, and it's like sugar, a bajillion grams.
Well, you know what that's like?
It's like, this shit's no better than the Lucky Charms.
That is like when you try to get like a fruit juice and you look on it and it's actually just concentrated apple juice and flavor.
Right. So it's like all these healthy looking cereals are just sugar. So I'm like, all right, fine. I'll just get a Rice Krispie. It's rice plus fire. But no, even Rice Krispie has some sugar in it.
So there was a time when I would eat Rice Krispies every morning.
I like Rice Krispie.
Yeah.
Especially you get some banana in there.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I'd only eat Rice Krispies adorned, never unadorned.
Yeah,
I'd put some banana
unadorned
in there.
Kind of not going on.
Do you eat a frosted or a non-frosted flake unadorned? Would you eat a shredded wheat unadorned?
No, I put a raisin in the shredded wheat.
Just one raisin?
No,
just one
some raisins. That you don't eat. You don't eat those either.
I like raisins.
I thought you don't eat raisins.
I don't. So I take issue with the fact that 99% of the time, when I see a cookie that from a distance is chocolate chip and I find out that it's oatmeal raisin, I'm disappointed.
Oatmeal raisin is delicious.
And I actually like oatmeal cookies without raisins in them more than I like oatmeal raisin cookies. But
anyway,
I do like raisins.
I go to buy the Rice Krispie, and it's a little box of Rice Krispies. They didn't have a big one, and it was mad expensive. So I'm like, what the fuck is this? Why is it like $5 for this tiny box of Rice Krispies?
Inflation.
So I go over, and as I'm walking, I realize, hey, there's those like off-brand cereal in a bag.
Wow, you really are like 70 years old.
And I'm like, hey, there's that off-brand cereal in a bag that I would never in my whole life think of possibly buying.
When I was a kid, actually, my term for those, because as a young child, I noticed them in the grocery store. There were two levels of the low-rent cereal. There was bottom shelf cereal that usually was in boxes or big bags and had names that evoked the names of real cereal. But then there was one step lower. There was the giant Trops where you could just scoop it into your own bag.
Oh, I didn't see that. Anyway, so yeah, I see the off-brand Rice Krispie in a bag, and it's way cheap compared to the real Rice Krispie.
All right, was it worth it? Because I'm assuming you bought it and you tried it.
And it had less sugar than the real Rice Krispie.
So it was probably worse.
It was pretty much and it didn't even have high fructose corn syrup. The ingredients were literally just like rice,
and crispy.
And crisp, right? It had some sugar, but not as much as the actual name brand Rice Krispie. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. It's so cheap. I'm going to buy the off-brand Rice Krispie in a bag. And you know what? You could not tell it apart from real Rice Krispie with a blind taste test. It is the same fucking thing, right?
Probably comes from the same factory.
I have no idea, but it's different, though, ingredients-wise. But it tastes 100% identical. You could not fucking tell. Even I was unblind, and I couldn't tell. There's no way you could tell if you were blind. Why did I not buy the off-brand cereal in a bag before? Right? Why did I fall for the marketing of the Snap, Crackle, and Pop dudes?
Youth, naivety, and classism.
All right, so give up your whatever pride or whatever. You can trust the cereal in a bag.
However, I would argue that far superior to any form of cereal
would be the shredded wheat or the cream of wheat.
Would be just like the bagel with a couple of eggs and some bacon.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great, but that costs $4 a day, whereas the cereal in a bag is like $2 and it's going to last you a whole week.
What? Regardless of how much money I have.
$2 a week or $4 a day.
Back when I was pretty poor, I was willing to sacrifice most things in my life to have a good hot breakfast or lunch every single day.
Even though I'll get a $4 maybe once or twice a week, maybe once every other week, you know, I still would rather pay $2 a week total.
Yeah. I will say, though, that lately I pretty much, my breakfast is like 2 bananas.
Well, now you get a banana, a crispy, and some milk.
Or sometimes one banana, 1 plum. Like, that's good breakfast.
Mm.
So, yeah, in some news, since it's Wednesday, anime, manga, comics, what do you got?
So, I don't know if people realize this if you don't read Underwear Pervert comics, right? But Fantastic Four which was Marvel's, like, the first Marvel Universe comic was Fantastic Four. I don't know how many people don't know that or do, whatever, right? Like, the Marvel Universe didn't even exist until the Human Torch met Namor, right, at some point. That was, like, when it became a universe. Before that, it was just separate heroes. But, yeah, the Fantastic Four was, like, the first Marvel comic, and it ran super long, right? And then, some time ago, it disappeared. And not only did the comic disappear, but all the characters disappeared from pretty much every Marvel thing. And the story goes that basically the crazy, you know, nut job owner of Marvel Studio, whatever, right? You guess we got bought by Disney, but he's still he's still the owner chief of Marvel, who basically doesn't seem to do much. He's just sort of an owner, like the editor-in-chief of Marvel is who really makes the comic book decisions. Handed down some decree like no more Fantastic Four because they didn't have, you know, when they didn't have the movie rights. So he felt like this is just a story, right? He felt like Marvel Comics were giving free advertising to someone else's movies, someone else's stuff. Which honestly makes sense because the core market for actual floppy comic books, pretty tiny. You're only gonna make real money by selling the movies. So they did stuff in the story to basically make the Fantastic Four go away, so you wouldn't see those characters anymore, and such. But now they're back because why? Well, Disney, which owns Marvel, has that 21st Century deal that's going to finish probably next year, and then they will own the Fantastic Four again. So they got to get the hype up because they're going to, you know, bring it in probably 1 or 2 years from now. You're going to see some Fantastic Four Marvel Universe stuff happening again. Anyway, I don't know. It's hard to say if I care or not. So the thing with Fantastic Four, right, is like they're not like my favorite heroes or anything. You know, it's like. I'm not like the biggest Fantastic Four fan in the universe. They are very simple. One could say elemental. Well, but the thing with the Fantastic Four is if you read the old comics, they're hella corny, right? As Underwear Pervert comics of old Underwear Pervert comics are corny. The special thing about Fantastic Four, right, with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, is that it is not quite Doctor Strange level of psychedelic, but still sort of old crazy sci-fi Twilight Zone-ish in a way, right? It has those vibes going on that the other comics don't really have. That sort of, you know, pulp sci-fi stuff going on. Well, like Venture Brothers has their superhero-y stuff in that universe, and it's basically the Fantastic Four. And it's like that fits with the like super science genre. Right. So if you read, say, you know, a Fantastic Four story, you're basically like you can as a human with a good brain, you can sort of extract and separate like this corny presentation, I'll hit you, you little guy, from this sci-fi story that also comes sort of intertwined, and like your brain, as you read them, sort of splits them apart like a DNA coming apart in 2 strands, right? So it's very easy, and many people have in more recent times, you know, made Fantastic Four stories that don't have the corny part. But at the same time, like to be fair, if I really want like a trippy, far out sci-fi story, I'm gonna read like a culture book or something. Yeah, you can do, you know, whatever. It's not exactly that kind of sci-fi. But anyway, so Fantastic Four #1, I think comes out today because it's Wednesday, right? Available on August 8th for purchase. Yeah, okay, I was right. Wednesday is Comics Day. Came out today. It's written by Dan Slott, who I've seen some rumblings online that like maybe Dan Slott is a bad guy. But I don't know why, because I've only ever seen him being a good guy. I think I mentioned this before, that I found out that he wrote the Ren and Stimpy comic that was awesome when I was a kid. And he also is, like, any Dan Slott comic I've read has been sort of that really lighthearted and fun, but still really good. Like the kind of thing that a kid could read and connect with, but also an adult can read. And, you know, it sort of, you know, makes the kid feel like he's smart, you know, and it's still, you know, that's the kind of feel that he writes with. The Matrix made a lot of people feel very smart about baby's first philosophy. Right, but he writes, the more like it's fun, but it's not stupid fun. It's somewhat intelligent, but still lighthearted.
Yeah, there's something
fun.
there.
Like a Saturday morning cartoon that you can appreciate, like a Dexter's Lab kind of level, maybe even a little more than that, right? That's the kind of stuff he writes. And yeah, so he's writing this new Fantastic Four, so maybe it's gonna be good.
I feel like we're gonna have to review it.
I don't know.
We can't avoid it.
Maybe I'm not gonna buy the issue.
No,
but I'll have to wait and see and get it.
You don't buy comic issues. It's 2018.
Right.
Granted, I would say you don't buy comic issues. It's 1998.
But apparently, from what I've heard, is that since the Fantastic Four have like been missing, that in the first issue it doesn't get them back together yet. So it's sort of like it's almost a zero issue and not a #1 issue.
I really have a hard time with, let's start over again. Like that.
Well, I think it more explains what happened to them since you haven't seen them in so long.
Oh, but I don't care about that either.
Well.
I almost would want a new Fantastic Four to just start in media res with, here's the Fantastic Four, and let's just go. They're doing something.
Well, the problem is like, I think they were like all in different places. So do something.
Like more recent Spider-Man stuff, we're just like, who Spider-Man is. We're just going to have a Spider-Man story.
Spider-Man, like, Peter Parker's company is like in the Fantastic Four's building or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Because they're not there anymore.
So in some other news, if you didn't know, Otakon, which is no longer in Baltimore and we no longer perform at, is actually this coming weekend.
There's supposed to be a Nazi rally down the street.
Yeah. So the news here is one, if the Nazi rally's happening and you're going to Otakon, you should go counter-protest the Nazi rally and go to Otakon. Don't just do one.
Make sure your cosplay includes, rocks or something to throw at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do not cosplay as a Nazi.
No.
But that's generally good advice anywhere, not just if there happens to be a Nazi rally nearby. It's still weird though. Like we don't go to at this point in Geek Nights.
We haven't been to Otakon in 9 years.
We don't perform.
We went to 2, 3, 4, 5. We went to 8 Otakons.
Until a few years ago, we had done more panels at Otakon than at PAX.
We went to 8 Otakons, and there's been
a lot since we stopped going.
There have been 9 that we haven't gone to.
But more importantly, we used to attend and perform at a lot of anime cons. And we're actually at a point where we neither attend nor perform at any anime cons.
Not any
currently.
Pure anime cons.
Yeah, at least currently, there are no anime-centric conventions that we attend or perform at in any capacity. Anime Boston is still fantastic. Like, it's a great convention. It's the best anime con I can think of. But, one, it's in a cold part of the year. And two, the security in Boston means that I basically don't want to ever go to any convention in Boston. I'm even annoyed at going to PAX East because of that security. But, even though we haven't been to Otakon in a long goddamn time, I don't want to go to Otakon. I definitely don't want to perform at Otakon. I still get weirdly nostalgic when I think about Otakon. Because we went to a lot of Otakons and spent a lot of time there. So yeah, it's this weekend. And I guess if you're going, I'm curious how it goes. Because since they moved, it seems like a lot of the almost no one I know goes anymore. Either to perform or just to attend. So I don't know what the state of Otakon is. If you want to go to an anime con that we might go to, though, Anime NYC is coming up in November. It does not overlap with PAX, meaning we can actually go to it. There's a good chance we're going to actually perform at it and do some panels. We're still working that out.
We'll just take the subway over, walk around, look around, do a panel, go home.
Yep, the subway that goes to Anime NYC also goes directly to my apartment.
Yep.
It's real hard to not go to this. I am not going to go to that Anime Expo-sponsored other anime event that's going to be in New York.
No.
Because, one, I can't take the subway to it, and two, I don't think it's going to be good.
No.
But if you want to do a panel at this anime convention, Anime NYC, you should submit them because the panel deadline is next week. It's coming up real quick. They're actually doing it way in advance because it's all smart people running the con.
All right.
That's enough news. All right, let's see. But anyway, things of the day. What do you got?
So, I'm sure Rim is familiar. I don't know how many listeners are familiar with the Yoshida brothers, who are a group of people who play I believe they're brothers. They play traditional Japanese instruments.
I'm a big fan of the Yoshida brothers.
Typically shamisen, I think, right?
Yep.
And they play, they don't play typical Japanese music on those shamisen. They play fucking awesome music on those shamisen. So if you just go on YouTube, type Yoshida brothers, you'll find good stuff. Here is something I came across. It is a group of people with traditional Japanese instruments, and they are playing the theme song to Sailor Moon.
This is real good.
Which is pretty good. So I think this channel, has other stuff too, right?
Well, both the stagecraft is good and the music is good.
Yeah. It's like a filming of a live performance. So this is worth a listen.
So I had a different thing of the day, but since Scott had traditional Japanese instruments, I have one I found a long time ago. I think I used it as a stinger at some point. But this is a traditional Japanese band using mostly traditional Japanese instruments, covering a song you all know and love, Africa by Toto, which has been continuously stuck in my head for almost 8 months now.
It hasn't been 8 months since we talked about this.
Oh, it got stuck into my head well before we started talking about it.
So at least nobody once told you.
Somebody bless the rains down in Africa.
At least it has ousted a different song.
So I'm going to warn you guys, though, like, fair warning. Because remember a while ago I was like, I should make an anime music video. And then, like, I just did, and I made it. So I have that same feeling in my brain, and I took that same first step. I took All-Star, and I took Africa.
I don't know if those mixed well together.
So you wouldn't think they would.
You trying to do a Neil Ciceriga job?
So I threw together, like I hacked it together just to see, like, is there a way to make it work? And it worked about as well as when I was like, I should just take this pony song and take Utena and just like mash them together. And I just like threw the timeline together and just listened to it. It kind of worked. I might try to make the Cicerengian style Africa All-Star.
How do they give the skills to do that?
It'll be quite low bar here. Quite low bar.
You don't have a lot of experience making mashups.
But I do have a lot of experience arranging.
I think if you made 100 of them, then you would certainly make good ones.
Yeah. But, I'd never made an AMV before, and I had none of those skills, and I made a pretty fucking good AMV, in my opinion.
It's a little more obvious to, I don't think it takes 100. I think it only takes like 10 to make a good AMV.
But I only made one.
Wow.
I just made one. It only took like 2 days. But we'll see. I'm working on this a little bit, but it's past the point of this won't work, and it's at the point of it's stuck, kind of like our rabbit. So the thing about pet rabbits is that sometimes they'll get an idea in their head. Like,
how do you know?
So
how do you know what the rabbit's thinking?
So here's an example. So say there's an area the rabbits can't get to and should not get to. Usually it's not a problem. They can't get there. They don't express any interest in getting there. It's not a problem. But occasionally the rabbit will appear to be like investigating the area that they're not supposed to get into. Or actively attempting to get into the area. So of course you fortify the area. From that point forward, for the rest of time, the rabbit will always be trying to get into that area, and you see them attempting it. Once they decide they want to do something, the more you try to stop them, the more they will try to do it.
Yeah, it's what children do.
That's what I do when it comes to mashing up.
What is this no trespassing sign? I want to go in there real bad.
No swimming. Fuck you. You can't. You're not my boss. Fuck you, Dad. I do what I want.
Maybe you only see this in rabbits because they're learning from you. They got your DNAs. Other rabbits don't do this. only rabbits that spend time near a rim.
They learn from a professional. All right, get to the meta stuff. All right, this is like the 8th time someone in the live stream has pointed this out, because GeekNights is actually recorded at night. It's evening. It's like 7 p.m. our time. It's just light out because it's summer. It's still evening. It counts. That's all I'm going to say about that.
I'm home from work. It's not like I'm doing it before work.
Yeah.
Or during the day.
Yeah. It's
what you do is we're supposed to, if it's summer, we're supposed to wait until like 10 o'clock at night.
Yep. It's recorded in the late evening. I'll go with that. At some point, we're going to have to re-record the closing bit, because if I get new music, we're going to have to re-record a voiceover, because I don't have all the original components. I don't have the recording of, like, us doing that end bit without the Sailor Moon
probably
thing.
Rewrite it anyway.
Yeah.
You just gave away that it's a Sailor Moon thing.
Yeah, but only on the live stream. Also, I'm changing it because it's time. I think 4 or 5 people have figured it out over the years.
I never would have figured out. How could you possibly? Because it's not like it. It's such an obscure. It's not. It's like a track from a image album or something.
It's a track. It's a segment.
People don't even know what an image album is anymore.
Yeah, it's from one of Sailor Moon's ISTs.
Yeah.
Do they even make ISTs for anime anymore?
I don't even know, but I don't even know. Like, I can't even believe that it's hard to even imagine that there was a thing that was a market for so much that they were made to begin with.
I basically, I don't listen to Japanese music much anymore. Most of the music I
only listen to, like, vaporwave Japanese music.
Yeah, but, like, I feel like Korean music has completely filled that void for me.
Well, that's because the Korean music makes itself available easily.
Well, it's on my streaming things. I can go to my Sonos and be like, play me K-pop, and it'll just play me K-pop.
Yep.
But I tell it to play me J-pop.
K-pop is great when you get Toto stuck in your head because basically there's a new K-pop song every other week to erase the previous one.
Yeah. G, 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 G is now in my head.
That's like, you know how old that song is?
I know, but it's real catchy. Maybe I could mash that up with Toto's Africa.
The #1 K-pop song right now is Power Up.
All right.
It got a perfect all kill. Which means it was #1 in every single chart simultaneously. Not a lot of songs get that.
In the meta moment, the book club book is no longer the Odyssey.
Nope.
It is now the Odyssey.
Regular Odyssey, Space Odyssey. You got to find a third Odyssey.
Yep. Actually, if I use that Planescape book that I keep talking about, it is Odyssey adjacent.
The Pages of Pain.
Pages of Pain. It is
Why
Odyssey
do
adjacent.
Pages of Pleasure instead?
Pages of Pleasure is basically all the culture books. That party and player of games at the beginning before he goes off. The guy gets so drunk he falls off the cliff and it's totally fine.
Let's watch some El Chapo.
Everyone's walking around with their narcotics bowls.
At full web, I see.
I had to explain. I said full web to someone at work yesterday.
Oh, they didn't know what it was.
Of course not. Of course not. I had to explain it, but you know what? Full web as a concept, that is the most succinct way to express that that moderately complex concept in a succinct form.
Right. Well, I think those are two terms from science fiction novels, right? There's grok, which is sort of like you have a full web of understanding. Is what grok means. You have a full web of understanding, and full web means you have accomplished a complete. Right.
Yep.
Sort of, they're related in that way, and they both sort of communicate fullness.
Yep.
Right. Of I don't know. That's why we need words like grok and full web because there's no other word.
Yep. Well, at work,
English.
I'm taking over. I'm taking over an area for someone else, so I have to do this knowledge transfer and learn all their biz so I can deal with their biz. And one of the engineers was like, "So does this all make sense?" And I said, "I understand it, but I do not yet grok." And he said, "All right." Like he fully grokked what I said to him.
He grokked the grok.
Yeah.
Perfectly cromulent word. But anyway, 2001: A Space Odyssey. I went to see the movie in 70mm. It was still great. I hadn't seen it in a long time.
I'm gonna read the book imminently.
I started reading. I read 2 chapters of the book. It doesn't seem that long actually.
I was planning to read it possibly to fullness at the beach, but I feel like we're not going to the beach this weekend.
It looks like it's gonna rain now. Maybe the weather will change and we will go to the beach.
We'll see. We'll play it by ear.
The point is, I didn't realize this, but I thought it was a book was written and then a movie was made, but actually the book and screenplay were written simultaneously by...
Simultaneously?
Right. What's the author's name again? Arthur C.
Really?
Clarke. Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick worked on this at the same time.
Simultaneously.
That was news to me, and that's kind of really interesting. But it's still different from the movie and still worth reading separate, even if you've seen the movie.
The important point is we have a book club, and you should read these books. I think every book we've read and done a show on is worth reading, actually.
At least one person who had already read the book said they were going to read it again. Wow. Okay, but...
You know what? There's one book we reviewed.
That's a person who already reads books. We need people who don't read books. This is a all-time classic book. I feel like you should read it if you're a nerd of any kind.
I was just scrolling through. I think there's
I haven't read it, and I'm fixing that. You should fix it, too.
I am confident there is, in fact, only one book we have ever done on the GeekNights Book Club that you should not bother reading. World War Z. That book's real fucking dumb.
I'm pretty sure we did Name of the Wind also.
I think that's almost worth reading. It's worth reading. Name of the Wind's okay. Remember, most of our complaints about Name of the Wind were based on knowledge from the second book, not based on that book. That book in and of itself wasn't that bad. It was worth reading. I think World War Z is literally the worst book we've ever talked about.
It's not good.
Like by a mile.
Not good. Anyway, yeah, and PAX West is Labor Day weekend. We're going to be there. Our panel is Monday at the crack of dawn. It's going to actually be streamed, even though it's at such a shitty time. That's a trade-off. Whatever. I'm going to PAX. I don't care.
Yep. Otherwise, we'll just be at PAX doing PAXing.
Duh.
Yeah, if you see us around, we're going to try to do our expo hall thing, like the video thing that we used to do, and then we stopped. I think we'll have time to do it at this PAX West.
I got some ideas.
I got some ideas, too. We should plan this. I'll have the new camera by then, too.
Are you definitely going to?
Yeah.
So I don't have to bring any?
I'm going to bring a real camcorder to get video.
So I don't have to bring any video cameras? I can bring way less stuff?
We'll see. So we should debate, because if you bring your camera, the only value of that, other than you taking photos, but you could bring a smaller camera for that.
Indeed.
Is that we would have two 4K, high-quality, actually color-correct camera angles for our panel. We've never had that. We always have your good camera and my, 15-year-old camcorder.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll play it by ear. But at least for the purposes of doing non-panel content, I will have a real camcorder, which will just make that way easier to pull off. All right.
You got to buy a tripod that can hold it.
Monopod, but yeah. And tripod.
You should get the same one I have, only with the
I think that's the one.
Movie thing at the time.
Actually, send me a link to that, because that's probably the one I want to get, because I've used it.
I mean, you could probably get
I think they have a newer model of the same basic one.
You want to pay $100 extra for carbon?
So
I have aluminum.
On one hand,
I've never noticed.
On one hand, I feel like I don't want to, but on the other hand, I was at B&H the other day. The carbon one is way lighter. It's
of course
shockingly lighter.
Yeah, my bicycle is shockingly light.
Yeah, well, the fact that my bike has a carbon fork alone, just that was shocking in the difference it made. About 10 years ago, you guys, Rim asked on the podcast who was listening to the podcast on a PSP. That guy was me. Okay. All right.
How's your PSP doing?
Do you still have the PSP? Do you still use it?
Was there a GeekNights MP3 on a memory stick of Sony?
Oh my God, a memory stick. Meanwhile, I still use Compact Flash on the Marantz.
Compact Flash is still a thing, more than memory stick.
It is barely a thing.
More than memory stick.
Yeah, definitely more than memory stick. All right, I'm diving in. Diving into the main bit. So City. So Keiichi Arawi is the person who wrote the manga Nichijou that you probably know from the anime Nichijou.
I've never read that manga Nichijou,
Neither
but
have
I've watched a handful of episodes of the anime.
I've watched a lot of the anime. It is one of my favorite non-narrative anime.
And it was all right, but it was it was a little bit more disjointed and wacky than, say, Azumanga Daioh,
it's
which
one
is
step
similar
more,
in feel and genre.
I would say it's one step more zany than Azumanga Daioh.
But it also has... I just didn't feel compelled to keep watching it, even though watching it wasn't so bad.
I did, but not in the sense of watch every episode in order, but more in the sense of I want to see something funny. I'd pick literally a random episode and just watch it.
But anyway, so I saw in the comic order form, City Volume 1, and it's from the creator of Nichijou, a new manga, Volume 1, buy it now. And I'm like, all right, I'll try that out, see what the deal, right? Not an anime, manga, right? We'll see what the deal is. So I got City Volume 1, and I also got City Volume 2, but Rim only read Volume 1. I read both, but I remember 2 way better than 1 because I read 1 a long time ago.
Yep. So the TLDR version is I really like it. I'm going to read all of it.
Right. So it's weird. So... the best way I can describe it is it's like a super cliche. You've seen all this before, but it's crooked slightly so, and it's also current, right? It's even though I feel like I've read these exact stories before, I've seen all these characters before and everything.
Yep.
I haven't, not exactly anyway. Other characters slightly different. But what other manga anime coming out now is this kind of thing? It's in the past I feel like even though I have a hard time naming them, right? These kinds of stories. But what were they?
I think it's this.
And what coming out now is that kind of story.
But I guess the genre, it's slice of life crossed with a little more zaniness than the real world, but not much more.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like, the level of things that happen in this comic are about on par with the level of, like, things that I encounter living in New York City on a, like, weekly basis.
Yeah, all right. So the deal is, right, and here's where you'll see the cliches, right? There is a very poor...
She's my favorite character. What, Nagumo?
Yeah, I guess. So it's hard to say there's a main character, right? It's called
Nagumo.
It's called City because it's really about all these characters.
I think the main character is the creepy guy spying on everyone.
No, anyway, it's about all these different characters living in a city. So it's sort of Simpsons-esque, where there'll be like chapters that are about a character who's not the main one.
Yep.
But you start off focusing on this one character, and that sort of is really she's the driver for that first volume, and it seems to get more focused than the others, thus making her the main one, right?
Yeah.
Even though she's not. As it goes on, she doesn't really get that much more focus, percentage-wise. But anyway. But yeah, so she is poor. She can't afford to pay the rent.
And she's kind of like neutral evil.
Yeah, she's got to do some shenanigans to get rent money. Escapes her apartment and stuff when, the landlord's all upset. Right? It's like you feel like you've seen that before, right? Somewhere, right? And then there's all these other wacky characters around. There's the girl who keeps taking photos of stuff. There's
the cop.
The cop who always stands at the booth.
There's the old lady who apparently knows Hokuto Shinken.
Right. There's a restaurant where somehow she ends up with a job, but the restaurant has like the dad who's the cook and the son who
I like how she
there.
didn't want to work there. They didn't want to hire her, and yet she ended up working there.
Yep. So, it's like,
it's stuff like that.
Right. And then it's like, on the one hand, there's like this thin line of like things developing. Like it actually,
unlike Nichijou, there is a narrative emerging slowly through this slice of life.
Right. Even though each chapter is like completely episodic comedy sitcom, right? Like there's a chapter in volume 2 that's about the kid who works at the restaurant getting trapped in the mascot costume.
Yep.
That's like a whole chapter, right? Even though every chapter is like that, there is sort of this thread of very slow progression where like the connections between the characters are increasing and they know each other more. Because at the beginning they like don't know any, even though they live in the same city, they have no visible connection to each other.
Yeah, the one
right?
guy's like, wait, isn't that the restaurant that girl works at?
Right, it's like they start discovering each other and learning about past connections to each other and developing current connections to each other and learning each other's names and, creating a group and coming closer to each other, sort of like that scene in Snatch where all the cars crash into each other, right? You can see that slowly happening, and you can also see people like getting their shit together slowly, right? She's slowly getting money and getting her shit together, and they sort of hint at like, this is her. She actually has a talent, and the photo girl, gains a fan.
Oh, the scene when the one Nagumo like busts into her apartment, and she's just like taking pictures of broccoli that she's arranged on the floor.
Yeah, pretty much.
If I had to describe like the important point about this manga, because it's great. I think it's really funny and I like it. It has impeccable comedic timing.
Mm-hmm.
The way, like, even in terms of like what will be on the next page, like it's so well crafted. I laughed out loud easily a dozen times reading volume 1. And I think the part, like the most illustrative story in volume 1 about this is when the dude at the restaurant, the chef, spills the dish he was going to serve to this client.
That's a very Seinfeld-esque chapter.
It is. He spills these noodles.
Right. He's going to. I think what he was going to give someone noodles to serve them.
And the guy's like drinking some wine, so he doesn't like. He doesn't notice. He spills the noodles into the guy's open bag on the ground, and the guy doesn't notice.
Yep.
And the whole question is, what does he do in this situation? And it is so utterly funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't even spoil it. The last page of that arc is a comedic triumph.
Yep. Yeah. That's a good one.
But I don't know. This is for everyone. Like, I can't think of the person who wouldn't enjoy this comic.
The illiterate person.
Even then, it's just looking at the pictures is funny.
The cold-hearted evil person.
Oh yeah, I guess if someone's evil, they would not enjoy this.
Yeah.
Even then, they might still think it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Some evil people also read books and enjoy them, so it's possible.
I guess so.
But like, I literally recommend this manga to anyone who's a fan of Nichijou, to anyone who's a fan of Azumanga Daioh, to anyone who listens to Geek Nights. Like, I think this is great, and I think you should check it out.
Yeah. So the thing is, the art is very simple, right? It's like it's sort of like four panel art.
Yet the characters are all instantly recognizable. I'm never confused as to who someone is.
Yeah.
Ever.
I mean, it's sort of like the art is, I guess, if you ever read the Azumanga Daioh manga, which was a 4-koma, they call it, right? It's better than that. But it's like you look at, say, Yotsuba. Yotsuba is like elaborate compared to City, right?
Yeah.
So if you're looking for like fancy artworks, this is not it.
I think the important part is
also if you're looking for length, this is not it either. Like this reads in like 2 seconds. Like you buy this thing for what does it cost?
I have no idea what things cost.
I don't know. It's not expensive, but it's like, see what it is to get it from the South American.
Yep. But
river.
it's low investment. Like, it's easy to pick up and put down. It's episodic enough to where it doesn't really matter, like, how quickly you read it. You're not going to get sucked into some long, crazy narrative.
All right. So it's like $12, $13 a volume, right? You're going to blow through that in like 15 minutes.
But also,
so it's like $1 a minute entertainment.
The dialogue, like the way the character, like especially Nagamo and the girl she's kind of mooching off of, their dialogue is actually pretty like realistic to how friends would interact.
Yeah, it's not, they don't talk in any kind of weird way.
Yeah, but it's all everything's very
At least
natural.
we're reading a translation also, but I guess the translation totally you forget that it's Japanese except you're reading right to left.
Yeah,
and they're in a very Japanese city.
So I'm going to read the rest of this. If Scott keeps buying it, I'll just keep borrowing it from him. And if he stops buying it, I might just buy the rest of it.
No, you're going to spend your $13, eh?
I'll probably just buy it on Kindle.
Is it on Kindle?
Let's see. I'm on the Amazon page. It is Kindle and Comixology, $8. Paperback, $11.30.
Oh, it's actually much cheaper to not buy the paper version. Maybe I'll buy the not paper version from now on.
Yeah, it seems like it's $8 a volume. That's not bad. Yeah. Comixology and Kindle, that's fine. The art, you don't need this to be like full color retina display to appreciate the art.
Yeah, no, it's not.
The art's good, but it's...
there were no color pages, right? I think none.
There's a handful.
For the cover was in color.
There's the insert, and there's a couple of little color spreads.
Oh, I mean, if I read it on my iPad, I'll see color anyway. Right?
Yeah.
So what do I care?
There's the bit in the beginning about the bird. The irrelevant bird.
Yep.
And even though the bird is irrelevant, I keep seeing the bird on things. Also, the one unexplained mystery I'm kind of invested in is in the police station, you keep seeing in the background, there's a picture of this like cobra-looking snake, and it's just like, have you seen me? I expect at some point that is Chekhov's cobra, and we're going to see that cobra.
You're really noticing all the details.
Yep. But the bird appeared a couple of times in the background, too.
Well, I think that's what it is like, like I said before, these connections building, right? So, and you have all these individual episodes, yet during those individual episodes, there's small things happening, being said, characters seeing each other. I think there were some chapters where like even though it's this, you read one chapter, and then you read the next chapter, it has nothing to do with the one previous, but you can see that, this character was there right near the other character who was doing something at the same time. It's like, they were in the same place in this small little city, right? And even though they didn't see each other or talk to each other, but they show you that they were near each other at that exact moment in time. These two events took place, on the same exact street, right? And that somehow, maybe they bumped into each other but didn't say anything, or one person caused a thing that, was you see like someone trips and falls, but then in the next chapter they show you, that actually happened because of this.
Yep.
And you didn't know.
It uses the fact that you see everything. Like, there's all this stuff around these statues, and like one girl steals one to try to sell it, but then it's like when she tries to sell it, it's worth way too much money, so she feels bad about stealing it, she puts it back, but then she breaks it. Someone else talks later about how like, oh yeah, I've just been throwing those things away because like our mom keeps sending them to us, and I don't really care. Like, there's a lot of jokes that are based on the fact that the true story of the thing that all these other people are interacting with. So yeah, you should pick this up and read it. And as someone in the stream asked, this is not at all similar to Dr. Slump.
No.
Dr. Slump is much more simplistic humor. It does not rely very much on timing. And frankly, I've read a lot of Dr. Slump because I own it all. Not actually that good.
Well, Dr. Slump is made by the Dragon Ball guy.
Yeah.
Toriyama.
Like, it's enjoyable, but it's not like... I like Gintama, too. I think Gintama's really funny. This is both very different from Gintama and objectively superior to Gintama in terms of its comedy. I'd say the same thing. This is objectively, comedically superior to Dr. Slump.
Yeah. I think the thing I like about City the most is that it's sort of less zany and ridiculous, right? Even if you look, it's not completely unzany, but like, Nichijou is famous for like the goat wrestling gif or whatever, then again, right? And even Azumanga Daioh is like Chio-chan's dad, where it's like, what the fuck?
Well, that's just Osaka dreaming.
Right, but I mean, the point is that there's none of that in City. It's much more down to earth.
Yep.
It's not 100% realistic, but there's no like super things happening.
Well, like the zaniness is literally, like I said, it is the level of zaniness that I actually, for real, encounter on a regular basis living in New York City. So yeah, check this out. It's totally worth reading.
All right, good. I'm hungry.
I'm also hungry. All right. The PSP is broken. That's a shame. All right. Sorry, your PSP is broken.